The other movie I saw recently that's gotten a few Oscar nominations was The Whale with Brendan Fraser. Really interested to see how this one does. I saw it at the Nova Cinema here in Melbourne, which is like an indie cinema, and people have been talking about The Whale for a really long time. Again, would be curious if anyone's seen it, what they thought, how they feel about it. It's Brendan Fraser's kind of triumphant return to cinema. The thing about Brendan Fraser is that Brendan Fraser was such a huge action Hollywood star in the early 2000s. Movies like The Mummy, George of the Jungle, he was even in Looney Tunes Back in Action as the main role. Like, I remember him as a kid being like the biggest movie star in movies that I was allowed to watch. He was so big, and then he just disappeared. And I actually remember thinking as a teenager, like, whatever happened to Brendan Fraser? What happened to him? He hasn't really appeared in anything for a very, very long time. Turns out there was a huge, reason behind it. I won't go too much into that, but he was I believe he was sexually assaulted in Hollywood and couldn't speak out about it, and no one took him seriously about it, so he left Hollywood forever. I think he's actually boycotted several award ceremonies as well. But The Whale, is this sort of big triumphant return for him. He plays a severely obese man who is trying to reconnect with his daughter, his estranged daughter. He walked out on the family when she was 8 to be with his gay lover from work. And I found it to be an incredibly moving performance from Brendan Fraser. I've seen that it's gotten pretty mixed reviews online. I tend to disagree with a lot of the feedback people have been giving the movie. I think I saw someone review it, I can't remember who, but they were saying that the movie is fat-phobic and homophobic, which I actually think completely misses the point of the entire film, particularly because, one, I think people now don't have this nuance of how do you portray a character in a movie or TV show that is homophobic without labeling the creator or the writer as homophobic. I don't think people realize that homophobia and other social issues are real life issues that we should discuss in art, whether that be film, TV, music, literature, whatever. And if we're not, you can't explore homophobic people and homophobic characters without having homophobic characters on screen. And they exist in real life. And I think people see a movie in which, there are characters that are homophobic or fat-phobic, as they've been described, and they think, oh, this movie is fat-phobic, this movie is homophobic. Well, no, it's not. They're depicting characters that are that, but they're not telling us that those characters are doing the right thing. They're not telling us that those characters' thoughts are the right thing. You're seeing it. You're seeing fat phobia and homophobia play out in a movie from characters, but that doesn't mean that this movie spreads a homophobic or fat-phobic message. I just feel like people completely miss that. I find it's the same with a lot of things even something like The Office. I think I've talked about this on the show before, but The Office is so the character Michael Scott, Steve Carell's character, says a lot of stuff that while you watch it, you feel embarrassed for him because some of the stuff he says is so sexist, is so homophobic, is so not right. Even by those standards, right? You wouldn't say that stuff in a workplace. You wouldn't say that stuff to your colleagues. But that doesn't mean that the show is promoting homophobic, sexist views. The comedy in that TV show is the fact that Michael Scott is such an idiot that he doesn't realize that those things are the wrong things to say. He thinks, because of his position in society, he thinks that it's okay to say these things. He thinks that these jokes are funny. He thinks that all of this stuff is acceptable. That's the joke. The joke is entirely on him because everyone watching knows you don't want to be like Michael Scott. And then I see people now going oh, The Office is so racist and homophobic and sexist. I'm not really. At no point does The Office make you sympathize with Michael Scott? At no point does it make you think he's right and that it's okay to say the things he's saying. At every point, he is the butt of the joke. He is the idiot. He is the fool. And it's sort of this, it's the same with The Whale. No one in that movie that's created it wants you to sympathize with the fat phobes and the homophobes. It's very clearly not that. And that's why I think it's so powerful, because it's showing that, you know, a lot of the movie is based around Brendan Fraser's character feeling disgusting and feeling like no one could love or care about him and feeling like his daughter could never love him and that he's not worth it as a person. So it's exploring all of these themes that people feel without actually... I just find it so missing the point to just... You hear a character in a movie say something homophobic, therefore you label the movie as homophobic, not the movie as an exploration of these themes. You can't have characters on a screen. You can't have characters... You can't label it homophobic or fatphobic if a character on a show or movie says something like that, especially when it's almost never being endorsed. So that's why I found The Whale... I thought it was pretty remarkable as a film. I saw it with two friends, both of whom cried. I notoriously struggle to cry in movies. I wish I could, but overall I thought it was a really, really good watch. And I thought it was really poignant, really profound, explores a lot of themes and explores them well. It's a really interesting movie because it's all set in one house. It was based on a play. And... yeah, I guess the other thing is just like depicting the struggle of someone who is that size. Like, his life isn't easy, and a lot of that is because of his size. And I don't think that that's fatphobic. It's just showing like when you are severely obese, like it makes a lot of things difficult. He can't even really walk by himself. And I thought the movie was really sympathetic to him as well. So yeah, I really liked The Whale.